You're listening to A Radio.
Thank you for joining us. You're listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. You can find us on most social media platforms such as iTunes, Spotify and iHeartRadio. Go to our website, aradio.wordpress.com, for details, where you'll find more content and details on our podcasts and more. Buying Chinese. What can you do today? Buy North American? Well, it turns out not much. I tried to look up mugs the other day. They were imported but printed in Canada or the US. So that to me is a microcosm of what's wrong. If you can't buy a simple mug, what else can't you purchase? That's an essential item. Well, over the next few days, I'm going to do a little bit of digging and I'll come back to you on that. Because what happens if we can't get other essential items? Suddenly, admittedly, they're not as important as masks, but if we have lost control over such basic items, then we truly are dependent upon another nation for our existence. Who's to say in a few years they might decide not to make paper towels or toilet paper or disinfectant? We all need these things. Just consider that. Look at our clothing today, our shoes right now. How about all the parts that go into your automobile? What about batteries for those hybrid cars and those electric cars? What about the flashlights that you have that need batteries? Or the remotes that you use every day? The list goes on and on. Why? Because of our so-called high-tech world. We seem either to ignore or want to forget that it's low-tech stuff that powers the high-tech stuff. How soon we all forget that drywall was imported not so many years ago that went mouldy or worse. Here's a clip from ABC News, May 2009, entitled Chinese Drywall Nightmare.
It started with a whiff of sulfur here and there in homes lining this brand new subdivision in Boynton Beach, Florida.
It smells like somebody lit a lot of matches.
It's a good description. Yeah, there's a lot of people that say it smells like rotten eggs, but to us it's more of a gas smell to it. Come on, we meet with Goofy today?
And then one day, Kathy Foster and Drew Ronke started to realize that whatever it was eating away at their $700,000 plus house from the inside out.
What was the first thing you noticed?
Our air conditioner coils turned black. We had them replaced, and within 3 months, they were black again.
Kathy and Drew weren't the only ones. In the last few weeks, word has started spreading through the cul-de-sacs of their development, Cobblestone Creek.
We had heard from a friend who had some issues with his kids who were becoming sick, and he had notified us that, have we ever heard of Chinese drywall? And we had said, no, what's it about?
Chinese drywall, wallboard imported from China during the height of the housing boom, much of which appears to be tainted. It was coming in just about the time Jared and Cheryl Bookman built their house.
How you doing? How are Chinese drywall screen?
To find out if they had it, the Bookmans called Howard Ursum, a home inspector who's now devoted his business to looking for Chinese drywall.
This is as bad or worse than I've seen. So this tells me that it has an indicative of being throughout the entire home.
The EPA now says the drywall it's tested so far is tainted with sulfur.
This is the original coil, and you can definitely tell it's definitely got the coating of the copper sulfide and copper oxide.
These things are starting to tarnish.
That sulfur is what's leaching into the air of potentially tens of thousands of homes built in this country during the last 8 years.
That underneath is copper.
Yeah, this is all copper.
Can you rub the black off and get copper again?
Mm-hmm. See how it's copper starting to come through?
People have started to complain of nosebleeds and headaches. And while it's still unclear whether Chinese drywall is making anyone sick, Kathy Foster didn't wait to find out.
So when he cut it out, that's the one that said China.
Do you want to play with these guys?
She moved her family out of their house into a rental.
We are currently paying our mortgage. We are paying our homeowners association dues. And still paying, taxes and insurance on the other home, plus paying the rental fee on this home.
All told, it's costing Kathy $8,000 a month.
$8,000 in a house that you cannot live in now.
Correct.
But clearly it was because of that little guy.
Absolutely. My personal belief is it's putting holes in copper piping and turning coils black. My membranes aren't much stronger than that.
Jared and Cheryl Bookman, who have 8-month-old triplets, say they can't afford to rent and pay a mortgage, though they're desperate to know just what the drywall is doing to their health.
Nobody can tell us if it is unsafe. Is it unhealthy to live here? We don't know. No one can tell us.
That's because nobody knows. Right now, no fewer than 8 government agencies are looking into the health effects of the defective drywall.
Oh, and just one more thing that needs to be considered. Perhaps even the real reason the liberals all over the world have been pushing China so hard as our backbone for essential goods in the West. If we take back our manufacturing capabilities in the West, it would expose at the drop of a hat the fact that we cannot afford to make things economically anymore. Not because of our labour costs, because there's always ways around that with technology. But far more insidiously than that, the basic fact of all their fake climate change taxes that impose a hideous burden on Western countries, a cost no economy can bear, but it is currently masked by massive Chinese imports. If industry, and I mean real manufacturing industry, was to return en masse and we began making things, the regulations are so draconian now that many industries could not even start up due to the costs of basic utilities caused by highly inefficient methods of power generation and distribution costs levied on our societies. The systematic destruction of the Western world's manufacturing infrastructure has been virtually wiped out and replaced by social welfare in many cases. So, bottom line is, even if we wanted to go back to making things, politicians have in fact made it darn near impossible. So China has really succeeded by using our politicians as pawns. We will have more to follow up on this in the next few days, once I've done my research. But it makes you think, doesn't it, that we can't even go back to manufacturing in many cases. And that's my comment.
You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, Spotify, and email. We're on Spotify under the podcast section. Type in Canadian Politics with a twist and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass these links on to your friends. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com/A-Radio, EHRADIO, A-Radio. And please click on the like button. Join us Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 11:45 Eastern, and tell your friends and pass the word. We only tell the truth, not what the mainstream media want you to know.